consideration of matters referred to by policy and development scrutiny bodies. There's a PDS panel wishing to speak, so we shall move on from that. Item 11, recent single member decisions taken. Ask the Cabinet to note those decisions, please. So we'll move on to the main item for this evening's agenda, which is budget and council tax for 25-26 and financial outlook. Ask Councillor Elliott to move the proposal, please.
Thank you, Chair. So, a major underlying theme of the budget this year is uncertainty. Whilst it's a huge relief to be away from the chaos of the collapsing Tory regime of the previous few financial years, the Labour government has been slow to signal the kind of significant reform that will be required if local government is to move out of crisis mode. We've been promised multi-year settlements, but that's not yet forthcoming. There was more uncertainty than normal around the confirmation of the final government settlement after the indicative information received before Christmas. We have now got that final settlement. We were told that the cost to local government of the employer's national insurance increase would be fully funded, but it looks like we'll only see 50% of our direct costs funded and none of our indirect costs from third-party care providers, for example. As the Cabinet will know, we've made successful bids for a new special school and new alternative provision school on the old Culverhay site, but we're still waiting for central government to confirm when they will release the funding for construction. And the more that's delayed, the longer we have to bear the costs of sending children out of area. The fact that the government has announced a review into social care, which will be completed in 2028, shows a woeful lack of understanding as to the urgency of the issue facing local authorities with social care funding. Cabinet will remember that last year we actually set out a 2-year balanced budget proposal. We reviewed the MTFS back in September, and that started to set out some of the emerging pressures which were challenging the second year of that 2-year balanced position. If all things had remained expected, this coming year's budget would have involved no change at all. Obviously, we expected some movement. A budget is only a plan, after all, and as the famous military adage goes, no plan survives first contact with the enemy. The starting point for our 2025-26 budget was around £14 million of shortfall, so the work over the last 4 or 5 months has been to identify savings and income proposals to bridge that gap. What we've landed on is £6.7 million of income generation plans and £7.31 million in savings. The detail of these is articulated in the annexes 2.1 and 2.2 of the papers, giving us an overall net revenue budget of £151 million. The scale of pressure we've seen during this financial year has been very significant and unpredictable. We'll be talking about that in the Q3 monitoring report, which is the next item on the agenda. So this pressure needs to be reflected in next year's budget proposal. As I've been reporting throughout the year, that's particularly true in children's services. The market of providers for social care, particularly those for the children with greatest need, is truly broken. In an environment where providers can demand significant hundreds of thousands of pounds per year per care package for our most vulnerable children, you don't need many children to come into the system at that level unexpectedly for the budget to be thrown completely out of kilter. However, I'm proud of the fact that this administration cares deeply about social care, and the budget proposal you have in front of you involves a net increase of around £6.5 million in funding for social care. This is on top of an £8 million net increase last year. The increase in demand, the broken markets and the lack of central government action are not the fault of those individual people, adults and children, who so desperately need that care. So we will always make sure that the funding is in place to be able to meet their needs. On top of that increase in funding for social care and recognising the level of risk and uncertainty in the budget this year, we're also holding significant contingency and provision budgets to help mitigate against the risk of things not going to plan. On top of the usual £3 million of corporate contingency, we're also holding £2.6 million of contract inflation provision to mitigate against the risk of the pressure that the employer's national insurance rise will place on our contracts with external suppliers. And there's also a further £4.3 million high-risk service demand and cost increase provision, essentially allowing a buffer against the sheer unpredictability of the situation in social care and, to a lesser extent, other departments across the council. Despite this extremely unpredictable environment, we have managed to carve out some room for increases in funding to some of the areas we set out as priorities in our manifesto back in 2023, and which have now been articulated in the Council's corporate plan. We've managed to add 2 new teams to our Clean and Green initiative, giving the Council more capability to tackle weeds, graffiti and litter. We're investing in our waste and recycling fleet, replacing them with electric vehicles over the next few years, which can be charged from the electricity generated from the solar panels on our new recycling centre in Keynsham, helping us meet our net zero commitments. We're trialling 3 new school street schemes, making it easier and safer for children to walk to school. We're putting extra money into building new pedestrian crossings and resurfacing pavements. This is on top of the very significant budget already in place for road resurfacing and pothole fixing. We're trialling extended park and ride hours that my colleague Councillor Rigby will, I'm sure, shortly be talking about. We're investing in new customer contact technology so that when people contact the Council, our response will be more joined up and coordinated. If someone rings us or contacts us initially, via the website or by email, and then rings us up, the council officer they're talking to will have access to a single customer record with all details of the previous contacts. But mostly the story today, I think, is one of the council setting out a cautious, careful, balanced budget which protects the most vulnerable in our communities and tries to mitigate against the huge unpredictability and uncertainty that we face. I want to emphasise that many councils and residents of other authorities would be extremely envious of our position. We have healthy reserves, we are not at any significant risk of finding ourselves in financial difficulty as other councils are, unable to balance the books, making switching cuts to services, having to apply to central government for permission to make exceptional council tax rises. In fact, we still expect to have the 4th lowest council tax of all the unitary authorities in the South West in the next financial year. One only has to look slightly west to see the announcements being made about Bristol Council's budget, where cuts to libraries, museums, bin collections, lollipop people, and the council tax reduction scheme were all being mooted. That's not happening here. We're maintaining a well-run, well-managed, stable organisation, and I'm proud of what we're achieving despite the prevailing uncertainty. So I'm very pleased to present to Cabinet a prudent, balanced budget proposal which helps deliver on the Council's core purpose of improving people's lives. And I move the recommendations set out in section 2.1 to 2.5 of the report.
Thank you, Councillor. Very well said. Councillor May, second, please.
Thank you, Chair. I wish to second these proposals. Every year, the Council officers go to great efforts to deliver for the ruling administration budgets that balance and provide considerable detail, as Councillor Elliott has shown in his speech this evening. I make no apology for what I'm about to say. As the Cabinet Member for Children's Services, this has been the service under intense pressure, but the Liberal Democrat controlling group have not only supported the service, but openly and consistently backed the most vulnerable people in our community in both children's and adult services. In other areas, councils have blamed these pressures for large budget cuts, but through our sound and caring budget, we have seen our children's base budget of £36 million increased to nearly £41 million, following the previous year's commitment of a 10% increase. This means we do not rely upon certain reserves to deal with these pressures, because in the most unfortunate circumstances, a child who comes into care will have enormous life difficulties and will still stay under our care probably until the age of 25. This is not a blank cheque, because we are committing to making some £3 million savings out of the £8 million pressures on the service without harming a single child's care as a result. This means we've examined all cases to see if we can reunify some children back safely with families, reviewing the distressing and expensive area care, working with our health partners to achieve a better balance of mental health contributions, and delivering an in-house model where transport costs have become very costly. All of these savings have been examined by the scrutiny committees, and Councillor Elliott has dedicated time with me on a 2-weekly basis throughout the year to work through, in a sensitive way, the pressures on the service. The report highlights that reviews and inspections have consistently shown that children's services we provide are good with outstanding features, delivered by dedicated staff. I want to thank the officers who care so much for our children on our behalf, and I feel humbled by the way this Liberal Democrat-controlled council has shown such care consistently for the most vulnerable children and adults in our community. This is not just about public money, it's about real people with real issues who we care about. I second these proposals, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Mayor. Very well said. Opening to debate, please. Councillor Rigby.
Thank you, Chair. It's quite difficult to follow those two speeches, both of them being so very powerful. So I'm going to start by saying thank you to Mark and the team, and to Paul and his team for all the work they've put together to pull forward this budget. And I too feel proud to be associated with the team that's doing this. I know up and down the country there are councils that will give their eye teeth to be having the kind of conversations that we're having and that are facing far harder decisions. And it's down to our prudence and good practice work with the officers and work of Mark specifically. Within my portfolio, I am going to talk slightly about Park and Ride because I'm a little bit excited about what it is we're going to do. From April, we're going to trial running the Park and Rides, all three of them. That's the Newbridge, Bob Down and the Lansdowne Park and Ride till 11:30 at night, Monday to Saturday. The benefits of this will be for my colleague Councillor Roper's portfolio. Hopefully it will extend how people stay in Bath for the nighttime economy. It will also make it easier for people who work in the nighttime economy to choose to come in not with a car, which helps my colleague Sarah Warren's portfolio in that we're trying to keep unnecessary car journeys out of coming from the middle, coming into the middle of town. We've got a great marketing plan that we're working on. We should be doing joint ticketing with, we've already done some arrangements with Bath Rugby. We'll be doing them with our heritage services. We'll be talking to businesses. And we'll be encouraging people who are both coming to visit and to work in Bath to use the Park and Ride as their method of choice. And finally, Chair, I'd just like to commit to you that we have learned a lot from WECA in this. When they launched the DRT, they put no marketing behind it at all, and people didn't realise it was there and it wasn't desperately successful. We've decided we're not going to do that. We're going to put sufficient marketing behind it that everybody will know, but that marketing will not include spending a lot of money on photos of people with their dogs wrapping the bus. Thank you, Chair.
I've got a clue who you're on about there, Councillor. Alison.
Thank you. The decision to bring adult social care services back in-house has provided us with opportunities to ensure that our services are provided by skilled and compassionate staff, that we intervene early to prevent and slow down deterioration, that we make decisions collaboratively with the people we support, that our resources are focused where they're needed most, and that they represent good value for our residents. This is within the context of rising demand and costs due to our ageing population, more people living with complex needs and staff shortages in the sector. We cannot make all the changes we need overnight, but we're making progress on our transformation plans, and I'm delighted that this administration recognises the challenges we face and is investing in social care services as it has done in previous years. However, the Council also needs to continue to develop its universal service to improve the lives of all our residents. I really welcome the investment in the Clean and Green team, in school streets and in expanding Park and Ride services in particular. Therefore, the investment in adult social care is partially offset by savings requirements that will support service change. In the longer term, central government cannot continue to expect local authorities to manage the increasing costs of adult social care, with the burden of responsibility falling on council taxpayers and the individuals who fund their own care. Louise Casey's forthcoming review is very welcome, but she's not starting with a blank sheet of paper. There's already been considerable research into the possible solutions for adult social care, and she must report sooner rather than later. In the meantime, I'm grateful for the support this administration has made to our local services.
Councillor Warren.
Thank you. Yes. So Thanks to, despite the difficult financial circumstances for local councils, I think as others have said, it's really thanks to the exceptional financial management of officers and of Mark that we do have some things to be excited about in this budget in my portfolio. And this evening I thought I would just highlight one, which is school streets. So school streets are an initiative that are all about the health of our children, in which motor traffic is reduced around the school for the duration of school drop-off and pick-up times. It's all about creating a safe, welcoming space for families to arrive and leave on foot, and about a healthy start to the day for our young people. We've been really keen to create some of these for quite a while in Bath and North East Somerset, and in this current year's budget we had allocated £200,000, which we have been using for the first chunk of work, liaising with schools and designing. And now, in order to get to the point of getting some of these on the ground during the coming financial year, we've allocated a further sum of £87,000, and it feels like a really exciting initiative that's about enabling young people to get to school actively and healthily, and about reducing school-run traffic and air pollution. So if these first few school streets that we will be implementing go well, it should put us in a very good position to bid successfully for further funds from external sources in future years. So thanks very much to the team for making that possible.
Thank you, Councillor. Very good points. Councillor McKay.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to add my thanks to our Councillor Elliott and his team for securing £73.4 million for housing. I will be coming on to talk about housing later on, but I just wanted to raise my thanks so that we can do what we want to do.
Thank you. Councillor Elliott, would you like to sum up?
Thank you. Yes, thanks to Cabinet colleagues for their contributions. As I said in my speech, I'm proud of this budget, and I think the whole Cabinet can be proud of it too. Given the wider context of uncertainty and financial constraints on local government, we're proposing a budget that shows we care about social care and that we will rise to meet the extreme challenges that those services are facing. But not only that, it manages to fund improvements across a range of other areas, focusing on our net zero commitments, our work to improve the area for walking and cycling. It helps keep our streets cleaner and greener, that improves our engagement with residents. All areas we committed to in our manifesto back in 2023, and which helps improve the lives of the people of Bath and North East Somerset. I propose to move to the vote.
Thank you, Councillor. To sum up, it's not too long ago in history to go back pre-2019, where previous Conservative administration was, when the sun was shining, was really struggling to put together a sound financial budget. But we've been through difficult times, cost of living crisis and COVID. But yet, again, you guys as a team have been able to produce a balanced budget, which most councils around the country would be extremely envious of. So, very well done to Mark and the team and everybody. Happy to move to the vote. All in favour? Oh, it's electronic voting. The old-fashioned way is over and gone. Our IT team ready? Negative. Okay, we'll record that as a unanimous vote and we shall move on. Okay? Oh no, it's appeared. It's all appeared, you've all got it. Excellent. Okay. I will move on to item 13, which is revenue and capital budget monitoring and cash for April to December 2024. Councillor Mark Elliott to propose again, please.
Thank you. So I spoke in my previous speech about the extraordinary pressures being faced by children's services, and this report sets that out quite starkly. By far the most significant predicted overspenders in children's services portfolio, which is currently running at £5.51 million over budget. This is due to pressures on residential care, increased packages of care and support costs needed, particularly in the disabled children's team, and pressures with unaccompanied asylum seeker children. The home to school transport budget is also under significant pressure. We're taking the long-term measures that are needed to try and mitigate these pressures. Largely, this is about building in-house provision which puts us in better control and doesn't leave us at the mercy of the vagaries of the open market. But reversing decades of private sector good, public sector bad philosophy takes time, and it will be some time before we see those mitigating measures having an effect. However, overall, things are moving in the right direction. As the report articulates, most portfolio figures are improving, with favourable movements compared to the Q2 report, which I presented back in September. High level of visitor numbers means that parking services are performing better than expected, and we're seeing significantly lower borrowing charges than we were predicting. The overall position has improved from Q2 by just under £4.6 million, when we were predicting an overspend of roughly £5.5 million. So we're now predicting an overall overspend of just under £1 million. I want to commend all the council officers for their hard work in pulling that position back towards the line. For comparison, £1 million overspend is about £500,000 better than the position we were in at the same point last financial year, and we managed to pull that back to a balanced position by year end. So, with continued action over the final quarter of the financial year, we can still expect that this year's budget will balance as well. I also want to commend officers on their performance in implementing the savings plans we set out at the beginning of the year. Appendix 5 is the savings monitoring report, and it shows that 77% of the £16.4 million planned savings have already been delivered, with the remaining 23% either predicting to come in next year or mitigated by one-off underspend or income in year. To sum up, the report highlights the challenging situation we all know the Council is experiencing, but it also shows that we're taking the necessary action to make sure that we stick to our commitment to balance the budget every year, and I move the recommendations set out in sections 2.1 to 2.4.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Reid, second, please.
Thank you, Chair. Again, I want to thank Councillor Elliott and his team for this report. Going back slightly to the previous conversation we've just had, when we're in a time of uncertainty, all we can do is, as my mother used to say, control your controllables. And this report shows that we've got the capacity to both monitor and make adjustments mid-year in order to hit our legal requirements to have a balanced budget. Again, this is something that other councils struggle with, and we seem to do it each year. So the fact that we do it each year, we shouldn't just assume that that happens because of some magic going ahead. It's because of a whole heap of an awful lot of hard work by our council team and our officers. Unless we monitor what we're doing, we cannot change, and unless we have information, we cannot make the best decisions. We get both of those, and I'm very, very pleased to second this report.
Thank you, Councillor Packett. Councillor Rigby, you projected your voice there, tomorrow. Move to the debate. I see no hands. Councillor, would you like to sum up, please?
I suggest we move to the vote. Thank you.
Happy to move the votes. We'll go to the electronic vote, please. We'll move to item 14, Bath North East Somerset Housing Plan. Councillor McCabe to move, please.
Thank you, Chair. So this paper covers our housing plan with a lovely foreword from our leader and chief executive, our domestic abuse accommodation strategy, and our housing services charging policy. And you are being asked to approve them for publication and implementation. We have a housing crisis in this country and also in our authority area. We also have, I believe, an affordability crisis in the city of Bath. Despite having built more houses than required of us over recent years, we still have a housing waiting list of over 5,500, with just 500 or so properties becoming available each year. You may have seen recently that if you're waiting for a 4-bedroom family home, your wait will be 200 years. We've lost our stock through rent to buy. Particularly 4-bedroom houses are very popular under right to buy. And of course, our councils have not been funded to replace them. So we remain dependent on the market, which consistently fails to build enough houses. But we also rely on the market model. It is the profit from market sales that subsidises our affordable and social units that we build through our development company, Aquis. We, in our manifesto, we set our officers a challenge to be building hundreds of council units every year or to achieve 1,000 by 2033. It therefore becomes increasingly important that the council utilises its assets and delivers as much land or buildings to Aquis as it possibly can. We can then deliver more affordable and social rental units under our own banner of Baines Homes. And again, I'm grateful to Councillor Elliott and his team for helping to fund that, which is the first pillar in the housing plan, releasing land for housing. When we then look at need and the provision of our social safety net, we realise that we need to also spread our tenures as widely as possible. So each temporary unit that we can build is a life rescued. Each supported unit is a life enhanced in often difficult circumstances. And each social unit is someone else off the housing waiting list and into their new home. Every time we build a new housing unit, that's a private contract brought back in-house, or a vulnerable person brought back into our authority area, or that's a family able to remain near friends and schools. And I think it's absolutely right we take this path to serve some of our most vulnerable residents, to make our meagre resources go further, and to deliver more than just our statutory duties. Not only that, but the Aquis product that we deliver here in Baines is rated EPCA for all new build and EPCC for retrofit and repurposed buildings. So that is part of our net zero commitment, but it has the added benefit of bringing heating bills down, right down, for our tenants who may already be struggling with the cost of living crisis, or bringing down the running costs of those units for the council as we seek to deliver our housing services over the coming years. In the appendices, you will see a complete picture of all the vulnerable people this plan will touch upon, of the incredible work our officers and our partners undertake on our behalf every day, and of the lives we help to improve. So I recommend this plan to the Cabinet, and I hope you will approve it for publication and implementation as outlined on the screen and the WEBCAST.
Thank you. Very well said. Councillor Gordon, second.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs would define warm, secure, affordable housing as a basic need, but it's not available to many residents of the UK, and Bath and North East Somerset is no exception to that. This has huge adverse consequences for people who live with housing insecurity. These plans recognise the inadequacy of current housing provision locally in Bath and North East Somerset, in particular the availability of low-cost housing located near to where people work, energy-efficient housing, affordable family-sized accommodation, as my colleague says, and homes for people with specific or additional needs. It sets out clear plans and a delivery strategy for the range of measures we must take to improve the availability of suitable housing, to meet our residents' needs, and to address market failure in this area. It is a really important and very welcome paper, which has the potential to transform people's lives. I'm very happy to second this.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. We'll move to the debate. Councillor May.
Chair, thank you. I'm the chair of the Health and Wellbeing Board, and we had a development session with the housing strategic staff talking about this strategy. We're very pleased to pick up the fact that in terms of the strategy, it's not just about housing numbers, it's how you engage effectively with youths in the area. Care leavers, care experienced young people are our children, and for the first time ever that's been picked up as a priority within the housing strategy. The unaccompanied asylum-seeking children, and I think the credit really to the Chief Executive and the team in the way that the fact they've actually pulled this together with other strategies that the Council have, including the economic strategy, the children's strategy and the adult strategy. And I think that's a great credit to the whole team to actually make sure that we don't just produce strategies with the blinkers on, we're talking about how this engages with our communities. So I very much will be supporting this, Chair. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor May. Would you like to sum up, Councillor Gay?
Just to say that obviously on the front line, it's important to remember that on the front line we have some really dedicated officers working incredibly hard with some of the most vulnerable people in our community, and I have to respect everything they contribute for us, and then have to move to vote, Chair.
Yes, sir. We'll move to the electoral vote. We shall move to item 15, Active Travel Master Plan. Councillor Warren to move, please.
Okay, well, good evening, Cabinet. So we declared a climate emergency in March 2019, and we remain committed to providing the leadership to enable the district to be net zero by 2030, however close that comes and however difficult it may be. Currently, transport accounts for almost a third of our carbon emissions across Bath and North East Somerset, and transport remains one of the most intractable, but also one of the most important areas in which to decarbonise. It's most important because reduction in carbon emissions goes hand in hand with health. More people using active travel and public transport means lower air pollution, greater physical activity built into our day, and better mental health. So it's a win-win. It's therefore my absolute privilege to present to you the Active Travel Master Plan, our ambitious 20-year vision to make walking, wheeling and cycling the natural choice for a lot more of our journeys across Bath and North East Somerset. Tonight's paper presents our comprehensive plan setting out the existing and future network of active travel infrastructure required to enable access for all to the healthiest forms of everyday transport. It proposes the creation of a holistic network of interconnected walking, wheeling and cycling routes and supporting infrastructure that prioritises the safety of all users. Building this network will help reduce inequalities, improve air quality, tackle obesity and reduce traffic congestion across the district by giving people a real choice of active travel as an alternative to the car for more of their journeys. We identified in our Journeys to Net Zero transport strategy for Bath in 2022 that we need to reduce car mileage by 25% per person to decarbonise Bath and North East Somerset's travel, and a strategic network of safe infrastructure will be necessary to make this possible. Our objective is to make active forms of transport the viable, attractive and natural choice for more of our trips, reducing dependency on our cars, and with the increasing affordability of e-bikes, which effectively flatten our hills and reduce cycle journey time, then when our vision of safe infrastructure is in place, it will become increasingly possible to cycle even medium-length journeys of several miles through outlying villages into the city centre, for example. The master plan sets out the benefits of active travel before identifying current barriers to its adoption in Bath and North East Somerset. Its proposed toolkit for active travel focuses not only on providing connected infrastructure designed to the highest and most up-to-date standards, it also recommends a programme of public education to enhance both actual and perceived safety for those travelling on foot, bicycle or other non-motorised modes. We're also tackling inequality. Currently, a fifth of residents in Bath and North East Somerset do not own a car, putting them at risk of social exclusion and effective marginalisation. The Active Travel Master Plan enables social equity and inclusivity, ensuring that travel is accessible to everyone, regardless of income, age, gender or physical ability. Tonight, we're adopting the Active Travel Master Plan as council policy. Creating it as adopted policy will open the door to potential sources of external funding. The next steps for this document include further analysis of the proposed routes, leading to a clear prioritisation. This will be a working document and alterations will be made as this exciting project develops. But for the avoidance of doubt for now, the labels represented in the main document is what I'm asking my Cabinet colleagues to support, not the colour indications on the newly attached appendix maps. We are also continue to discuss the plan with the West of England Combined Authority, our Transport Authority, and with Active Travel England, to establish the route to incorporate this proposed network into a new local cycling and walking infrastructure plan for the Bath and North East Somerset, enshrining our ambition for cycling amongst key regional policy objectives. I think you will agree that it has been an innovative piece of work, placing Bath and North East Somerset in the vanguard of the Council's ambitious to improve active travel, and setting out an ambitious vision for the future. And big thanks are owed for it to the officer team, which has been led by Nick Simons. I urge you to consider the recommendations within this report and support the exciting vision that it represents.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Councillor McKay, second, please.
Thank you, Chair. Some years ago I pointed out that it was really very difficult to cycle between my villages. Walking via footpaths was okay, but walking or cycling along country lanes was downright dangerous. Not only that, but some of my residents actually wanted to commute from our rural villages into Bath on their bicycles. And was there any sort of coordinated effort or map of how that could be done, whether on lanes or green lanes or footpath? Well, there is now. Officers have listened, Councillor Warren has led, and this master plan will help us to improve active travel infrastructure across the authority area for those who want to choose it. Now, I'm 61, and thank you for the gasps of inclusion. And I don't know, it's very hard to believe. And whilst I am able, I choose to commute by bike wherever I can. It's really the only time I raise my heart rate during the week, which is to the benefit of my health. I want to live healthier for longer. But one day I hope that it will at least feel safer to cycle up the hills out of Bath in the rush hour. This master plan now at least starts that process, and I am happy to second the motion.
Okay, thank you very much. I didn't think you were 61 either. No. Councillor Ball.
Thank you, Chair. Local authorities have limited resources and limited powers, so it's essential that we get the most impact we can from the resources we have. This plan does just that. Supporting our residents to safely travel more actively has multiple benefits in achieving essential climate-related objectives, in improving the quality of the air we breathe, and improving fitness, all of which help to increase the health and well-being of our population. Not everyone can travel actively, but encouraging and supporting those who can through this broad range of initiatives benefits us all, and I welcome the plan.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. No one else wishes to speak? Councillor Warren, Mr. Ball?
Thank you for your contributions. I would encourage you to vote to formally adopt the Active Travel Master Plan.
Thank you very much, Councillor Warren. We'll move to the electronic vote, please. That is unanimous. So we'll move to item 16, creating sustainable communities in North East Somerset, the journey to net zero. Councillor Warren to propose, please.
Yes, so next up we've got the journey to net zero, creating sustainable communities in North East Somerset, and it outlines our vision and strategic approach towards sustainable development amongst the towns of North East Somerset and our larger villages, including Cainsham, Salford, the Somer Valley, Hicksgate and Whitchurch Village. This strategy is the culmination of extensive research, engagement and collaboration with our communities and the key stakeholders. It goes hand in hand with work on our new local plan and is all about creating great places for people to live, work and bring up families, whilst offering a range of healthy and low carbon, everyday, practical travel choices that move us on from the current paradigm of car dependency. It builds upon the ideas put forward in the Journey to Net Zero strategy for the Bath that was published in 2022 and explains our approach to addressing the transport contribution to key challenges in our communities, including climate change, social inequality and economic resilience. It puts forward a vision of communities connected in the future by high-quality, frequent public transport links, seamlessly integrated to active travel infrastructure. Communities where everyone has access to essential services, affordable housing and opportunities without the need to drive. This will provide the basis for social cohesion and for building a resilient local economy for the long-term prosperity of our district. We also propose options to support drivers with reducing their environmental impact through improved car charging facilities, as well as the provision of car clubs, so that people can have access to a car without the expense of ownership, with the first injection of funding in this area announced as part of the budget this evening. We will look to continue and strengthen our close working with local stakeholders and communities themselves. In fact, I wrote to the Mayor earlier this week to emphasise the need for the West England Combined Authority to join with us in engaging much more closely with them so as to build a consensus around the vision of a healthier, low-carbon future in which to bring up the next generation. So, in conclusion, I want to very much thank officers for their hard work in creating this document, which sets out our vision of a sustainable, inclusive and resilient Bath and North East Somerset. I urge you to consider the recommendations within this report carefully and support its adoption. I believe that together we can build a better future for our communities and for generations to come.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, everyone. Councillor Kane, second, please.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, it's me again. Well, we have a challenge in the journey to net zero to reduce vehicle mileage per person by 25%. Yet at the same time, the government set us a target to build some 29,000 new houses over the next 20 years. And if everyone has 2 cars, that's some 60,000 new cars on the roads. Can you imagine what 60,000 additional cars on our roads would look like? On the A4, trying to get through Salford. On the A37, trying to get through Pensford. Or on the A367, queuing just to get to the park and ride roundabout. That's going to be the picture if we don't try and meet the challenge of reducing car journeys in North East Somerset. Rest assured we will seek to build new homes in places with infrastructure and jobs. We will seek developer contributions towards active travel routes, and we will seek to deliver more transport choices. And in all this, we will be working closely with our Transport Authority, the West of England Combined Authority, because we need a whole network approach. Public transport options and active travel options must be attractive choices for residents in North East Somerset. Unfortunately, the recent past has not been at all reassuring. As a rural councillor, I am still ridiculed for Westlink, not fit for purpose and generating some of the most expensive per-mile public transport journeys in the country. And birthday bus passes, absolutely useless if your local bus has been axed. Let's be clear, if we continue to mess up like this, then we are creating a recipe for more and more cars on our roads. So I think it's vital that we, as the Liberal Democrat administration in Baines, state our case and put forward our solutions as set out in this document. If you are serious about reducing car journeys, even slightly, if you are serious about tackling the climate emergency, and if you are serious about improving the health and fitness of your fellow residents, then this is what you need to do, and I'm happy to second this document.
Excellent, very well said, Councillor Kane. We'll move to the debate. Is there debate? Councillor Warren, would you like to stop? Sure, you don't want to follow that? No? Very Churchillian. No. We'll move to the electronic vote then, please. Things go so much smoother when you use technology. Great, thank you very much. That is unanimous. We'll move to item 17, please. Treasury Management Performance Report, 30th December 2024. Councillor Elliott to move.
Thank you, Chair. Cabinet heard quite a lot from me this evening, and I've got another report to come, so I'll be brief. That isn't to play down the importance of Treasury Management to the sound financial performance of the Council. This report is always very reassuring. It sets out that our return on operational investments is just above the benchmark rate at 5.05%, and the return on our strategic investments is again slightly higher than the benchmark rate at 4.32%. Higher than budgeted returns on our investments and reprofiling of capital spend mean that our capital financing costs are running at just over £1 million lower than budgeted, helping alleviate the pressures on the revenue budget that the Q3 Revenue Monitoring Report highlighted. Appendix 1 sets out the key indicators as agreed in the Treasury Management Strategy, and they're all favourable, and there'll be more on the Treasury Management Strategy shortly. We're well within borrowing limits. Our portfolio credit rating is A+. We had a minimum of 15.3 million in liquid cash. Our interest rate exposure is very low. Our refinancing risk is much lower than required in each time period. Early repayment risks are on or below limits, and we're under-borrowed by about 9 million for the rest of the year. Our underlying position is therefore robust, and I commend the work of officers on both the report and their ongoing work in making sure we maintain that position. I move the recommendations in 2.1 and 2.2 of the report.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Councillor Roberts is second.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Happy to second this. Just reflecting, been a few comments. Treasury Management performance report's a bit dry. Can you talk about that, Paul? I don't find it dry at all. I think it's utterly fascinating what we're doing. No flaky solar farms here, thank you very much. All very good, solid investments, large amounts of money in deposit giving good returns. Just reflecting on this evening's extremely ambitious set of papers, running to 8 pages short, 1,000 pages we've got this evening, ladies and gentlemen, which is a huge amount of work, massively ambitious, sustainable communities, housing plan, active travel master plan, all good stuff. And when you reflect on reform last night, talking about putting tax on renewables, there's a difference in ambition and what we've got to do. None of this would be possible if we didn't look after the cash. The cash is everything. It oils the wheel that puts fuel in the tank, hopefully sustainable fuel. And some very interesting figures, so if you wouldn't care to read it in some detail, folks, I think you'll find it utterly fascinating. So happy to second this report.
Thank you very much. Something with such experience in the business world, very wisely said. And I should add that such financial management doesn't happen overnight, and compliments of the entire team, led from the top by our excellent chief executive, who is an expert in finances. He's still that I've complimented him in public, but I do it in private, I promise you. So we'll move to the electronic vote. Unless you want to sum up, Councillor Hayes. No, we'll move to the electronic vote. That is unanimous. So we'll move to the last paper of the evening, which is Treasury Management Strategy Statement 25-26. Councillor Elliott to move, please.
Thank you, Chair. So my final paper of the evening sets out the Treasury Management Strategy, which is the strategy that guides the successful Treasury activity that was highlighted in the previous Treasury Monitoring Report. As that report highlights, the Council had borrowed and invested substantial sums of money. The borrowing at the end of December was just under 270 million, and the investments are just over 43 million. And the Council is therefore exposed to financial risks, including the loss of invested funds and the revenue effect of changing interest rates. So the successful identification, monitoring and control of financial risk are therefore central to the Council's prudent financial management. Treasury risk management at the Council is conducted within the framework of the SIPFA Code of Practice, which requires the authority to approve a Treasury management strategy before the start of each financial year. The report in front of you fulfils the authority's legal obligation under the Local Government Act 2003 to have regard for the SIPFA Code. The strategy itself, which is contained in Appendix 1, sets out the Treasury limits in force which will limit the Treasury risk and activities of the Council, the Treasury management indicators, the current Treasury position, the borrowing requirement, the prospect for interest rates, the borrowing strategy and the investment strategy. So, whilst as has been said, it can seem quite dry, this is a really fundamentally important strategy document, and I am pleased to move the recommendations in section 2.1 and 2.2.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Roper, second, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Having been very excited about the previous debate, I will admit this one really is quite dry. So, just happy just to second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No wishing to debate. Councillor Elliott, would you like to sum up? I move the electronic vote, please. We went through that item too quickly, though. IT not ready for the vote. Okay. Yeah. For those people watching at home, we tell a story if you want me to. No. We've got a few IT problems, but we'll have a show of hands while we're waiting. Yeah, that is now. Okay, I will move the meeting. I will move the meeting. I will close the meeting. Thank you for attending, everybody. Thanks for those who are watching online. I will officially close the meeting. Thank you very much.